Godbeat.com here, speaking with Sligh of Immerse here.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, he was on the 6th season of American Idol, but now he is much more known for his songwriting capabilities. He had that #1 hit for Rascal Flatts called Here Comes Goodbye. Now, I heard, when did you hear that it went #1?
I actually found out on my birthday. I turned 31, and somebody called me that day and said, "Hey, your song went #1." I was like, "Oh, that's a nice little birthday present." So,
Right.
you know, it's nice little big check coming for my birthday present, so that's good.
Yeah, and more to come in the years,
Yeah.
in the coming years. That's great. So we're here at Immerse, where there's a lot of aspiring musicians, a lot of aspiring artists, writers. So, typical question: what is your advice for these people who are trying to get their stuff out there?
Find a different career. No,
Yeah.
just. You know, it's really tough to make it in the music business today, especially the Christian music business. It's kind of folded in on itself and folded in on itself and folded in on itself so many times because, you know, back in the late '90s, a lot of money was spent on a lot of records that shouldn't have been spent a lot of money on, and so then also major labels bought out all the Christian labels, and so. From a business standpoint, basically that hurts the Christian market in the way that it says, you know what, we can handle, the mainstream labels kind of tell the Christian labels, we can handle the hits. You just write for your little Christian market down there. And so the mindset's changed. When I got into Christian music, it was in the 90s when the mentality was, how can we change the world and how can we change the world of music? No one was thinking about, I think at that point, not a lot of people were thinking about how do we copy whatever's hot at the time. It was, you know, how can we be ahead of the curve? You know, DC Talk was doing rap rock before Limp Bizkit, before POD, before any of these mainstream bands. Jars of Clay was the first act that really used all loops instead of real drums. No one had really done that up until that point. Michael W. Smith's production at the time was way ahead of its time. Stephen Curtis was doing great things, and then suddenly when the major labels bought out the Christian labels, historically what happened was it became very church focused with worship music, which is not a bad thing. At the time, I think it was exactly what Christian music needed. But as we've come out of that time, the pendulum has kind of swung from inspirational music to now people feeling like, I feel like people are wanting life music. That it makes it tough to make life music and try to change the world when the people who own your music are telling you that they don't really need that. But ultimately, you know, you have to make the music that you think that you're supposed to make, and so you hopefully make records that resonate with people in a bigger way than just, you know, a song that can be sung on Sunday morning.
And so you're talking about the Christian music, the worship music, and then some of the mainstream. And I've heard you don't really care for that term Christian music as people would normally define it, and explain why.
Well, I think that sometimes we think of Christian music as just that music that's like worship music. And to me, God is as glorified by me singing a love song to my wife as he is by me singing a love song to him. And I think that we get it mixed up sometimes, that we think that because we're Christians, that Christian music, that we separate into two worlds. We listen to Coldplay and we listen to U2, but then over here we listen to Chris Tomlin and we listen to, you know, name your Christian artist. And that's not a bad thing to listen to those artists. But, you know, in the same way, I feel like we as Christian artists should be going, okay, I get that we have to have congregational music, that we have to have worship music per se, but I think that we also have to have life music that's just songs about life, songs about that it's okay for me to sing a love song to my wife. I don't know that I necessarily want to do a duet with Peter Cetera and walk down the beach holding his hand, but you know, at the same time, I think that we can walk down those avenues and it's okay.
Definitely, that's such a good perspective to have on that, and it's not something you really hear in the industry nowadays. And speaking of, you were talking about the artists before, like Michael W. Smith and Stephen Curtis.
Right.
I'm assuming those are some of your influences, but on your MySpace page, there's more than 100 there.
Yeah.
So overall, generally, from a songwriting perspective.
Well, on my MySpace page, I actually just literally put, like, I think I put Ace of Base as one of my influences. Yeah. Those guys aren't really one of my influences, although, you know, Don't Turn Around was a great song. But and so some of that is a joke. I would say that some of my main influences are definitely the Beatles, obviously. A lot of their songwriting has affected so much of what we do today, and I'm a huge fan of Coldplay and U2, and stuff like that. The Killers, stuff that I think is really great songwriting, but they're doing it in a smarter or more interesting way than one-note melodies, which is so in pop music today seems to be like the common theme is like, let's write a melody that's one note for the whole song. That to me is a little boring. And so I feel like that some of those acts that are great song. Bryan Adams, as a kid was one of my biggest influences songwriting wise. He just wrote great songs. And then on the Christian market, like I started off really listening to Christian music. That was what I really dug into. It was, Stephen Curtis was a huge influence. For him, actually, was a huge influence. I think Mark Harris is one of the most underappreciated songwriters in Christian music. Of course, Michael W. Smith and Amy Grant. And, just a list of the legends from the 90s. Those are the guys that really influenced me.
Yeah. And speaking of For Him, I heard an interesting story about them and your school, and tell us about what happened.
Well, I got kicked out of college for going to a For Him concert. I went to a very conservative college called Bob Jones University, and someone found some pictures of me and my best friend at the concert. We snuck backstage and hung out with the bands it was at For Him and FFH. And a guy named Ben Glover, and who was an artist on Word at the time, and we had got snuck back there and hung out and taken pictures, and somebody found the pictures and then turned us in, and so I was actually not kicked out. I was asked not to return.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so there's a difference.
So apparently there's a difference, and so I did not return.
Yeah, and look where you are now.
Yes, I think I'm the first Bob Jones. They've had a gay porn star, and now Chris Sligh is a Christian musician.
There's a bit of a difference there.
Yes. In their minds, actually, no, there's not. But that's how skewed their view of the world is.
It's not the worst thing that you left that school.
Right.
That's good. And you were also in a band, I guess, in college called Half Past Forever. Now tell us about that, and if you're going to do anything more with that.
Yeah, Half Past Forever was a band that I started back in 2003. I was a solo artist for a few years when I first started off, and then was in a band for 5 years called Half Past Forever, and it was one of those bands that man, it was so much fun, and I was kind of learning. I had come out of this world where performing this kind of music was considered wrong and sinful, and especially to draw attention to yourself by being a front man or something like that was definitely wrong. And so I started a band kind of to hide behind a little bit, and so it was great for those 5 years. Now I'm glad to be a solo artist again, and I think that those guys did great stuff on the records. That we actually did 3 records together, and before American Idol, and but it's nice to be a solo artist again.
Very cool. And now tell us what's next for you.
What's next for me? I actually am about to announce a new record deal.
You just announced it?
I know, but I can't tell you who
you
yet. But I'm excited about that and getting ready to start recording my second major album and national release. And I'm really excited. It's called, I think it's going to be called All the Angles. And it's just an album that I think, I've been telling people that I think that this may be the best album that I'll ever do. Just a lot of passion and a lot of hurt and a lot of feeling has gone into this record. I actually left my first record label and moved to another one, and that was a tough process. And just trying to go through all those things, and I think that it came out in the music, that it's some of the best music that I may ever write. And I'm just really excited about this record.
About when will that be available?
I think we're looking at, in the spring, early summer next year.
So early next year we'll be looking for that. And your website is, so we can find it?
ChrisSligh.com, or you can check out chris-sligh.info, which is kind of my fan site, and you can hang out with fans. Or check out my blog. Just Google Chris Sligh blog, and we have a little community over there where we hang out and talk, and I talk with fans a lot, and it's a lot of fun.
Great. Well, Chris Sligh, thank you so much for talking with Godbeat and being here at Immerse. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be here.